The look on the cheating wife's face was priceless: shock, guilt, panic, all rolled into one. She was shattered. This wasn't the forgiving husband she had expected. This isn't just a story about suspicion and betrayal. It's a chronicle of trust unraveling, where every word hits like a punch, and every silence feels like a confession. In this emotional whirlwind, pain, anger, regret, and maybe even liberation, the only question that remains is: can anyone walk away from the ashes still whole? The door swung open, letting in a flood of unwanted light into the room where I was sitting that Friday afternoon. A tall man, built like a bull, stepped in and scanned the room, noticing me when I raised my hand and gestured for him to come over. He walked up and, with a smile on his face, sat down across from me. His real name was Gerald William Cassidy, but behind the wheel he liked wearing jeans and a big cowboy hat, so everyone just called him Butch Cassidy. Butch worked as a driver for my company. We were in the business of producing baked goods and distributing them across nearby states. I was the production manager at the local plant, as well as at two others in Pennsylvania and Ohio. I had taken the afternoon off to meet with Butch and talk about something that had been bothering me. His shift was already over. He'd started well before dawn and finished around noon. He did local runs and never had to be away for long. He and his wife Martha used to be close friends of Donna and me, but that was before their divorce about 6 months ago. Butch looked at my face, saw the tension, and frowned. "What's going on, buddy? Your call surprised me. I haven't seen much of you or Donna since the divorce. Thought I was off your acceptable friends list." It was true, I hadn't spoken much with Butch since he and Martha split up. Partly because Donna, my wife, hated Butch and blamed him for the problems in their marriage. When I mentioned that Martha was the one who'd been unfaithful, Donna just gave a scornful smile and said it was karma for his antics. I knew Butch well enough to realize that was nonsense, but it didn't seem worth upsetting Donna by arguing. She always seemed to be mad at me for one thing or another, so why stir up more trouble? I called the waitress over and ordered a couple of cold appetizers. Butch glanced at her but didn't say anything, sensing it wasn't the time for jokes or small talk. He was waiting for me to explain why we were there. Well, Donna didn't want us to stay friends with Martha, so I just went along with it. That's on me. Though, to be honest, Butch, after the divorce, I didn't really like Martha much anymore. But that's not why I wanted to talk to you. I've got some questions, and you've got the answers. Sounds interesting. Go ahead. What was the first thing that made you think Martha was cheating on you? What were the signs? Butch looked at me with a curious expression, then started to smile. The smile grew wider as I waited. Looks like someone else is having trouble in paradise, huh? Damn. Well, I can't say I'm surprised. What do you mean? Do you know something? Something I should know? I don't know anything for sure, but I've got my suspicions. Your wife and my ex-wife have been spending a lot of time together since the divorce, and that, in my opinion, is dangerous territory. But anyway, what do you want to know? What were the signs, the clues that made you suspicious? Butch thought for a moment, mentioning that thinking was a thirsty business, and waited for me to order another beer, for both of us. When it arrived, he grabbed his glass and drank a third of it in one go. All right. The signs? First off, Martha got really quiet. She'd always been talkative, never left me alone when I was home. I didn't mind it, but suddenly she stopped talking to me. She kept chatting away, but not like before. Just nonsense I didn't care about. Most of the time, it felt like she was somewhere else. He paused to take another sip and stared into space for a minute before continuing. Then she started picking fights over nothing. Absolute nonsense, stuff that didn't mean a damn thing. She'd just wait for me to say something and then jump on me. She just wanted to argue. No matter what I did, it didn't change a thing. That's when I started to feel like something was off. It was clear the topic was still sensitive. It had only been 5 or 6 months since the divorce was finalized. I knew Butch well enough to realize he still loved Martha, even now, after everything she'd done. But I also knew he couldn't forgive her. The hardest part for Butch was that she didn't seem to care. Then I started calling home during the day while I was at work. I hadn't done that before, and when I did, I'd just hang up when she answered. Took me about 3 weeks to figure out what was going on. She was usually home every day, except Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, she'd go out in the afternoon, usually before 3 or 3:30. When I asked what she did during the day, she said just shopping and errands, dry cleaning, stuff like that. Another sip of beer and a signal for another bottle. I gave him the honor. The last sign was that our sex life just slowed down and then stopped completely. If I hadn't made a fuss, she wouldn't have touched me at all. And when she did, it was like she was a doll. You know, one of those inflatable ones or something. She used to love it, we had a great time. Then it just stopped. I nodded, remembering those last days of that period. I knew Butch was hurting, but at the time I didn't ask why. I just stayed out of what I thought wasn't my business, while he was slowly dying inside. The divorce hit him hard, but I kept my distance. Now I regretted it. I regretted failing him, and not paying more attention to what he was going through. Maybe it was too late, but I told him how sorry I was. He just shrugged and said, "It's all right. It's all over now." How did it end? What did you do? I took the day off and followed her on one of her Wednesday outings. Borrowed a friend's car and waited outside the house until she left. I followed her to a motel on Frederick Street and saw her meet up with that bastard she was cheating on me with. I brought a camera and took pictures, her walking in, him hugging her, and then them coming out, his hand on the small of her back. The beer arrived. He took a big gulp. It brought back unpleasant memories. But I needed to know. That night I showed her the pictures, and she just shrugged. Asked me what I was going to do, and I told her I wanted a divorce. She didn't even argue, just agreed it was for the best. Didn't want to talk about it. To this day, I don't know why. I still don't. I felt disappointed, probably. I was about to ask him why she did it, but he didn't even know. She divorced him without ever telling him what she'd done or why she betrayed him. I wondered how he managed to live with that kind of silence. Did you ever try to get her to tell you what happened? Why she hurt you like that? I think you deserve to know. You should know, so you can move on. Didn't need to. After I found out, I could never have forgiven her. I'd never take back a lying, cheating woman like that. So I didn't care. Let her go. All that stuff I said was just talk. That was the end of it. She's still seeing that idiot, but he went back to his wife and isn't planning to leave her. Serves her right. I didn't give her a single concession in the divorce and I'm not going to. She wanted alimony, but I told her to hell with it, I'd quit my job if she tried to force it. I would have given her half of everything I had. She got the message quick. She wanted to leave me more than she wanted my money. He finished his second beer and finally leaned back in his chair, looking at me. So, Tommy, you got problems. Looks like you're trying to figure out what signs to look for in your own marriage. Damn. But then again, considering how close Martha and Donna are, it's not that surprising. I think cheating is a disease, and Donna caught it from Martha. Hell. So what are you gonna do about it? I wasn't surprised he figured it out. I hadn't planned to keep it secret, I wanted his help figuring out what Donna was up to. Every sign he mentioned was there: irritability, silence, being away from home with no real excuse. There hadn't been much love between us for a while, and we only did it now and then out of obligation. Now everything was clear. Butch helped me sort through my thoughts. Well, I think it's crystal clear. She's shown me every sign you mentioned, and a few more. I've been racking my brain trying to figure out how to catch her, but either she's too smart for me, or she's got help. I haven't been able to find any proof of what she's doing. But damn it, it's obvious she's cheating, and I want to gather enough evidence to make sure she can't screw me over in the divorce. You came to the right place. Let old Butch help you out. Let's come up with a plan to catch her in the act. I wish I could say we sat down and came up with a brilliant plan to expose my wife, but in reality, we just got a little drunk on a few more beers. Now that I had someone to talk to, someone to vent with, I let myself relax. As soon as I started talking to Butch, I knew I needed to let it out. And by the time it was nearly midnight, I found myself fumbling with my key at the garage's inner door. No luck, until the door flew open and there stood my loving wife, hands on her hips, with a look on her face that could have been hell itself, furious. "Well, you finally decided to come home. And from the looks of it, drunk too. What do you have to say for yourself? Hello, my loving and faithful wife. Were you waiting here for your devoted husband? Or did you spend the evening with someone else, huh?" Donna was furious, but at my comment, she narrowed her eyes. I was too drunk to take advantage of that gesture. She didn't respond, just turned around and walked down the hallway toward our bedroom. I managed to get inside. Slammed the door shut and leaned against it, trying to stop the room from spinning. After a few minutes, I felt steady enough to lock the door and head to the kitchen for a cup of coffee and a cold towel. I felt awful, but at the same time, for the first time in a long while, completely relaxed. After a failed attempt to pour myself a cup of coffee that had already gone cold, I just collapsed into one of the chairs and rested my head on my folded arms at the table. I just wanted to rest a bit, regain some strength, and then go to bed. I was still resting when a ray of sunlight coming through the kitchen window woke me up. I had spent the night exactly where I'd planned to rest. That became painfully clear when I tried to straighten up and a cramp in my back reminded me I wasn't a young man anymore. Eventually, I pulled myself together and headed toward the stairs, when I heard the voice of my loving wife. "I see you slept here last night. Must have been pretty drunk to do that. What a shame. You're going to pay for it today. I bet you're real proud of yourself, huh?" I replied with a sarcastic comment, saying she probably didn't even notice I wasn't in her bed, as I walked past her toward the shower to get changed. I didn't want to talk to her or argue in the state I was in. I reached the shower, stripping off my clothes as I walked. I stepped into the hot water and felt the energy slowly return to my body. The back pain finally eased, and I could stand up straight again. I started to feel almost normal. That felt more like the truth. I reminded myself once again why I almost never drink. Never again. As I began to pull myself together, I remembered what I'd told Butch. Donna and I had been married for over 9 years. We didn't have kids, Donna couldn't get pregnant, and she wasn't ready to consider adoption. I wanted children, but she didn't seem willing. That created tension in our marriage, though I thought we'd moved past it. But the last 4 or 5 months had been especially rough. Donna was irritable, short with me over almost anything, and emotionally shut down. We never had a very active sex life, at least not since she found out she couldn't conceive. But we were okay. The last time we were intimate was over 3 months ago, and now that I think about it, it wasn't a pleasant experience. And now I was starting to understand why. An hour later, I returned to the kitchen in search of that cup of coffee I'd wanted so badly the night before. I smelled it and headed toward the coffee maker. With a cup of coffee, I'd feel like myself again. Unfortunately, Donna was also in the kitchen, and that ruined my mood. Now I needed more than just coffee. "Just let me have a cup of coffee before you start tearing into me. I need something to wake me up. Too bad you had to make a fool of yourself last night. Maybe if you'd been home, where you're supposed to be, you wouldn't feel so awful today." I had to hold myself back before saying something I'd regret later. Not out of guilt, but because I preferred she didn't know. At least not yet. I decided to stay silent. "I'm talking to you, Thomas Brooks. Where were you last night and with whom?" "I was with Butch Cassidy. You know Butch? He's the guy your cheating friend dumped for the idiot she's sleeping with now." "You don't know what you're talking about. Martha wasn't the first to cheat. He cheated on her. She got tired and left. She and Jack were just friends. It was Gerald's fault. He pushed her into it." I figured it was time to tell her the truth. I couldn't help but laugh at her ignorance. Martha had filled her head with lies, and I was in the mood to open her eyes. Is that what she told you? Butch never cheated on her, not once. I, and everyone who knows him, are sure he loved that woman more than life itself. That was her damn version, and she tried to sell it to everyone, but you were the only fool who bought it. Everyone else knows exactly who she is. That's not true. She just wanted to get back at him. That's all. Before the divorce, she went out with that guy just once. Just once, to make him jealous. But then he got so irrational that Martha decided to leave. She couldn't take his cheating anymore. Sorry, but Martha had been seeing Jack Mason for over 7 months before Butch found out. He told her to get out, and she said she'd be happy to, because Jack was going to leave his wife and marry her. She moved out that same day and didn't even try to fight the divorce. No apology, no explanation. She just left. She's still seeing him, but he hasn't left his wife. So she's nothing but a cheap floozy. Donna looked stunned. I wasn't sure what story Martha had fed her, but it clearly wasn't the truth. I think she was just starting to realize it. That marriage ended the moment Butch found out. He told her he'd never forgive her, and she didn't care. That greedy woman wanted alimony, but he told her if she pushed for it, he'd rather quit his job and live off welfare than give her a dime. She already spent everything he gave her. Since they had nothing but the house, Butch left it to her, with the mortgage. Donna sat there staring at me like I just told her we were being evicted. She was in shock. I wanted to laugh, but I held it in. This was the first shot in the war that was coming. Since her idiot lover didn't leave his wife, she had to sell the house to pay the lawyer. But no worries, her lover takes care of her. I heard he's paying for her apartment now. Do you visit that apartment often? It belongs to her lover. He pays for his mistress. It's a sweet deal for him. She gets free rent, and he gets free entertainment. He writes it off as a business expense, the apartment and his paid toy. I laughed at the look on her face. It was priceless. Martha had really sold her a full package of lies. No surprise there. And now comes the best part. But I'll tell you something, any wife who cheats on her husband is both unfaithful and a fool. If she doesn't have the guts to talk to him first and find out the truth before doing something like that, she doesn't deserve to stay married to him. If he's that bad, then ask for a divorce. But going out with another guy and blaming him, that's just plain nonsense. Now she really looked sick. I don't know what was going through her mind, but I was sure now, she was guilty. I wanted to push her a little more, just to make her slip up. You know, my loving wife, if you ever did something like that, I'd divorce you so fast your head would spin. So if you're thinking about it and trying to come up with some excuse, understand this right now, there is none. No excuse and no second chance. I got up, grabbed my cup of cold coffee, and walked out of the kitchen into the garage. I had a small workshop there with a radio and a portable TV. I sat on the stool and started taking stock. First, I laid out the facts about Martha to Donna, and it was clear Martha had sold her a bunch of lies. Second, I made it crystal clear how I feel about cheating and what I'd do if she betrayed me. Third, I planted the fear of God in her, and now she was probably trying to figure out what to do next. If she was cheating and knew I suspected it, she'd try to bury the evidence so deep I'd never find it. Fourth, she was on the defensive, and I had the upper hand. She didn't think I suspected anything, so she'd make a move soon. That gave me an advantage. Finally, I dug into my feelings and into my heart. And to my surprise, I realized I didn't really care that my marriage was falling apart. I think I'd lived so long with the harpy Donna had become that I just didn't give a damn anymore. The love was gone. I spent the whole morning out there, undisturbed, and around 10 I called Butch and asked him to meet me at the corner at 1 in the afternoon. I asked him to drive the pickup truck he'd just bought, the one no one had seen yet. I wanted the option to follow Donna if she decided to go somewhere. I told him what I was planning, and he thought it was a good idea. We agreed on it. When Donna called me back into the house, I found lunch ready and served on the table. It was the first time in 3 months Donna had made me lunch. Makes you think, doesn't it? What's this? Lunch? Why now? I thought you were mad at me. If I didn't know you better, I'd say you were feeling guilty. What do you think? She gave me a strained smile. Of course not. You just looked so tired and worn out. I thought you needed to recharge. Probably because of yesterday. Well, in any case, thanks. By the way, I'm meeting someone this afternoon. I'll probably be out most of the day. Who are you meeting? It's Saturday. Why do you need to see someone today? Just a friend. Nobody important. Nothing for you to worry about. It just seems strange that you have to meet someone on a Saturday. Well, it just came up. Why are you so concerned? You think I'm doing something I shouldn't? They say guilty people are always the ones who suspect others. No. Of course not. And I'm not guilty of anything. I was just asking. Got any plans? Anywhere you'd like to go? Donna looked nervous and unsettled, but tried to hide it by turning around and fiddling with the sink before answering. No. I'm just staying here and finishing up some chores. I need to do laundry. A long pause, then, and tonight I'm going to see that new movie with Martha. Well, now we were getting into serious territory. No doubt she was meeting her lover tonight. It was perfect. I wanted to push her a little, just to make her sweat. But wherever she went, I'd be close behind. Maybe you want me to think you two are going to the movies, but I know where she's going. You thinking about having a little fun too? Go to hell. Her anger felt forced, mixed with a pained expression on her face as she turned toward me. The guilt was as clear as daylight. Her reaction should have been rage, not guilt. We ate lunch in silence, then got ready. I put on a nice casual shirt and some slacks before heading out to my meeting. Donna watched me quietly as I left. I headed to the convenience store on the corner, where I'd arranged to meet Butch. I knew I could leave my car in the store's back lot without anyone seeing it. I parked, went inside, bought a pack of cold beer, and climbed into Butch's pickup. All right. Let's head over to Madison Street and do a little surveillance. I want to see if she leaves in the car. She said she had no plans, so she should be staying home. Let's find out. 3 minutes later, we stopped on a street that crossed mine. From there, we could see the house and check if Donna left in her massive SUV. It was a giant Ford. I never understood why she needed it. She didn't work, didn't haul anything, so what was the point of that beast? Butch and I cracked open a couple of cold beers and chatted for a while. I told him about my morning conversation with Donna. He was thrilled and said she was probably guilty, but we needed to be sure. While we talked, I saw Donna pull out of the driveway and head in our direction. I grabbed Butch and we both ducked down until she passed. She reached the intersection with Madison, turned toward our direction, and drove right past us. Butch lifted his head to watch her stop at the corner of Madison Street and Main Street. We waited until she turned left, heading downtown. Butch started the truck and we followed her, keeping a safe distance. After about 10 minutes, Donna pulled into the parking lot of a cafe in a part of town we never visited. Butch drove past and then pulled into a gas station across the street. From there, we had a clear view of her car. She was just sitting there, waiting, doing nothing. As I started to lose patience, I saw another car pull up next to hers, but on the opposite side. I couldn't see who it was, but I saw Donna get out of her SUV and walk around to the other side. Because of the size of that damn vehicle, I couldn't see her. I was about to tell Butch to circle around the beast so we could get a better view, when the car she'd approached backed out and drove off in the opposite direction. By the time we managed to merge into traffic, the car was gone. I had no idea what to do next, so I asked Butch to take me back to my car. When he asked what I planned to do, I just shrugged and said I'd follow my instincts. He patted me on the shoulder and said he was really sorry. I told him that at least it was a relief to know for sure, but inside, everything was churning. My marriage was over, and my life would never be the same. But when I thought about it, I reminded myself of everything I'd endured up to this point, and that the best thing would be to cut ties completely. We agreed to meet again later that night, and I returned to the cafe. I stayed there for a while before deciding to move my car and park a little farther away. From there, I could still see her vehicle, watch the cars pulling into the lot, and when I saw her return, I'd wait until she got into her SUV. Just before she started the engine, I'd pull up beside her, pause for a moment, and then drive off. Dramatic, sure, but more importantly, I realized I just wanted it all to be over. No spying, no tailing, no hidden microphones or any of that garbage. That wasn't me. She had lied to me and been with another man. Period. The rest was just noise. From the moment they left until they returned, it was just over an hour and a half. Plenty of time to do whatever they wanted. Maybe in the car, like a couple of teenagers. Didn't matter. I recognized the man in the car, it was Jack Mason. I actually thought they made a good pair. I started the engine as I watched his car pull up next to Donna's SUV, and then, after a few moments of saying goodbye and making plans for the next rendezvous, she walked around the front of his car and watched him drive off before heading to hers. And now, a little surprise. Just as she opened the door, I pulled up beside her and waited for her to notice me. Before getting in, she turned and saw me sitting there. When our eyes met, her expression was priceless. Shock, guilt, panic, all rolled into one. I gave her enough time to recognize me, then started the engine and drove home without looking back. I didn't do any of the things you're supposed to do. I didn't pack my bags, didn't close bank accounts, didn't throw her stuff into plastic trash bags. That would have required planning and thought, and I wasn't in the right state of mind for that. When a man becomes convinced his wife has cheated on him, what the hell do you expect? Rationality? Calm? Reflection? Ha! All I felt was deep sadness and a slight nausea in my gut. Funny how the end of something, even something bad, can be so sad and disorienting. Even though I didn't love Donna anymore, I'd been married to her for over 9 years. Most of my adult life. I was losing that, so yeah, it was sad. No, I just sat in the living room and waited. I wanted it to end. I wanted it to be loud and ugly. That morning, I'd made my position clear, and she knew exactly where I stood. I told her there were no excuses for cheating and no second chances. It would be interesting to see what her plan was. Would she deny anything happened? Deny the affair? Pretend they were just friends and she was seeking advice? What? Well, time would tell. As I sat there, I heard the garage door open and that monster of a vehicle roll in. I always thought she was compensating for something. Maybe it was me. Maybe I was too small, clumsy, or timid for her, and she needed that monster of a vehicle to compensate for the lack of excitement at home. Yeah, that was probably it. Just like in those ads where someone feels rejected and goes out to buy a Hummer. As if that helps. Clearly, it didn't help her either. She had to go find someone else who could give her what I couldn't. The door slammed open and Donna came rushing in. Tom. Where are you? She walked into the living room and saw me sitting there. She froze and just stared at me. I think she expected me to explode with rage, but I just sat there, not even looking at her. That was her problem, not mine. She was the one who ruined it, not me. She was the guilty one, and I was the one hurting. Why should I say anything? God, all I wanted was to go get drunk. That's what she'd done to me. She stepped into the room, started to sit next to me, but stopped when I looked at her. My expression was enough to make her change course and sit in a separate chair. I leaned back on the couch and waited. It's not what you think. I don't know how or why you were there, but it's not what you think. How the hell could she know what I was thinking? She didn't know me at all if she thought I'd accept something like that. I think the mess she'd gotten herself into had finally caught up with her. Maybe she thought everything was under control and I'd never find out about her affair, but I did. And now she was neck deep in trouble. I was there because I followed you. Butch and I followed you the whole way and saw you get into that idiot's car and drive off. That's all I needed to see. And what do I think? I think you're a cheater, a liar, a woman who decided she needed more fun in her life and threw her husband away. That's what I think. Now tell me I'm wrong. The tears started flowing like a river. She was in trouble and she knew it. She was trying to find some way to make me believe it wasn't true. You're wrong. None of that is true. It wasn't what it looked like. I didn't cheat on you, and that's the truth. Sorry. You're trying to feed me the same story your slutty friend fed Butch. I don't believe you. You're a married woman. You got into another man's car after telling me you'd be home doing laundry. Your best friend is a damn cheater who betrayed her husband. These past few months you've done nothing but argue with me, make my life hell with your complaints and sarcasm. You stopped wanting to be intimate with me. Now it all makes sense. That was just an excuse to justify your affair. You wanted more. And you went looking for it. This is insane. None of it's true. You're trying to make me look like a cheater, but I'm not. I'm not. I don't want more. I have everything I want with you. Then tell me, what were you doing in another man's car for an hour and a half? Why did you need to meet with him and lie to me about it? Why have you been so distant lately, and why did we stop being intimate? Why? Damn it, tell me why. Do you have answers to those questions? She rocked back and forth, hugging herself, head down, staring at the floor. The look of a desperate woman who'd been caught. She tried to speak, but cried so hard her words came out as broken sobs. It's not just that. You don't understand. You're wrong. I don't believe you. You already lied to me, and now you're trying to convince me you're innocent. Well, I don't buy it. If you could lie once, you can do it again. That's what I believe. By that point, Donna was nearly out of control. She whimpered, cried, rocked back and forth, but said nothing. I don't think she had any words left, no time to prepare a lie. And without preparation, it's hard to come up with one on the spot. I'm going to pack my things and leave here as soon as possible. Tomorrow I'll call Frank Feingold and start the legal process. You should get your own lawyer, because Frank works for me. Her reaction was immediate. She lifted her head and stood up, waving her arms. What do you mean you're getting a lawyer? What do you mean by starting a legal process? You're not serious. You can't be talking about divorce. No. No. You have to let me explain. It's not what you think. Yes, it is. No, damn it. No. I'll tell you everything. Just stop saying that nonsense. The truth is, I would have liked to know what I did that pushed her to this. Maybe I could have taken the time to hear her story. And I'm sure she had one. A lie. Not now, when it was already too late. Just a lie she thought might convince me. Fine. I'll give you 5 minutes to tell me your story. But if I hear one lie, I'm gone, and this is over. No more lies. I already told you, no second chances. Donna stood and paced the room before starting. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head as she tried to figure out how to convince me of her innocence. It probably wouldn't be the truth, but it would be interesting to see how she tried to lie. All right. His name is Ronald Tartan. He works with Jack Mason. No matter how prepared I was, the fact that she and Martha were partners in infidelity, and that she was seeing Jack's friend, was too much. Everything went blurry, and the world turned white. The rage I felt was almost enough to knock me off my feet. I shouted. I should have known. Martha sleeps with Jack, and you with Ron. I get it, good friends stick together. How long has this been going on? Did Martha infect you? Well, screw you. I was so furious I stood up, glared at Donna, and turned to go pack my bag. Suddenly I realized I didn't want to hear another word. When she reached out to grab me, I turned and gave her a look so intense she backed away. She was afraid of me. For the first time in 9 years of marriage, she feared me, and in that moment, I didn't blame her. I can't listen to this right now. I thought I could, but I can't. It's too disgusting, even for me. I need to get out of here. Just don't say anything. Please. Just step aside and don't say a word. I ran down the long hallway to our bedroom and grabbed my suitcase. I pulled everything I could from the drawers, threw it in, and zipped it shut. I went to the bathroom, grabbed a plastic bag from the vanity, stuffed my things inside, and tied it up. That would have to do. I was so furious my whole body was shaking. My hands trembled, but I had to make it to my car. If I could just get there, I'd be okay. Somehow, I made it. I reached the door, opened it, tossed the suitcase down the 3 steps, and grabbed the railing to keep from falling. Donna was standing in the doorway and stepped aside just in time to avoid getting hit by the bag. Her face showed fear and panic. She was afraid of me, but at the same time, she didn't want me to leave. Damn it. I was out of my mind. Tom, please. You shouldn't. I told you to shut up. Please, just shut up. Why can't you just keep your damn mouth closed? Stumbling, I made it down the 3 steps into the garage and to my car. I threw the bags into the back seat and got behind the wheel while Donna kept talking. I didn't listen. I didn't want to hear her. Backing out of the garage, I nearly hit her monster SUV. I jerked the wheel hard and drove off, finally letting out the breath I'd been holding all that time. I calmed down just enough to know where I was and pulled over to call Butch. I needed a place to spend the night, and his apartment would do. He picked up, gave me the green light, and I headed his way. I spent the whole night telling Butch about my conversation with Donna, and he just shrugged, saying he'd expected something like that. He knew the guy she was seeing and told me he was Jack's right-hand man. Apparently, they'd been sharing our wives for their own pleasure. I felt the rage start to build again as I talked, but at some point, it just faded. I guess it's hard to keep that level of anger without burning out. I knew it would come back, but for now, the beer and the conversation helped me stay sane. The next morning was Sunday, and I woke up feeling like I'd gone 10 rounds and lost. Butch told me he had some things to take care of that morning and told me to make myself at home. I got up, cleaned up, and threw on some jeans and a t-shirt. I checked the fridge for something to eat, found some eggs, and made myself an egg sandwich. Simple, but it tasted good. I sat down just to think about what to do next when the phone rang. I decided to answer in case it was Butch. And it was. Hey, man. You good? Find anything to eat? As you can see, I don't keep much around. Thanks, Butch. Yeah, I'm good. Had an egg sandwich, took a shower, and I feel like a new man. Well, I just wanted to let you know, I talked to Martha this morning, just to get a better sense of things. Don't say anything sarcastic. Maybe you should call Donna and let her speak. I know how it sounds, but maybe you should hear what she has to say. Damn it, Butch. What could she possibly say that would change anything? She humiliated me, and that's all there is to it. Just call. Martha told me something that might be true, but I don't trust her enough to believe it. So just call and talk to Donna, okay? You're my friend, and I want to see you do the right thing. If after talking to her you still want to do what we discussed, I'm fine with it. Just talk to her first. All right? If it was important to him, I'd do it. But it seemed like Martha had cooked up some scheme. She and Donna must have talked and come up with some nonsense. Maybe I'd end up believing whatever lie Donna told me. 2 for 1. But I'd do it, because I promised. I poured myself a cup of coffee and went into the small room to make the call. Butch's apartment had 2 bedrooms and a big open space that included the kitchen, dining area, and what you could call a living room. That's where the couch was, where I'd spent the night. The little room was too small for anything but a home office, just a phone and a computer. But it had a good office chair, and I felt comfortable in it. Like at work. I picked up the phone and dialed the number. Hello. Hi, Donna. It's me. Sorry about yesterday, but I had to leave before I did something I'd regret. Tom. Thank God. I had no idea where you were. I called Martha, and she called Butch. He didn't tell us anything, but said he'd get in touch with you. Yeah, he called. Wanted to make sure I called you. I guess you told your side to Martha so she could sell Butch some story and get him to call me. Well, here I am. Tom. That's not how it was. Please, come home so we can talk. You left last night before I could say anything. Please, come back and talk to me. Last night you told me everything I needed to know. You and Martha are seeing those guys. Looks like your lover is Jack's right-hand man. I guess Jack rewarded you for sticking with his buddy. Maybe the two of you can set up a little love nest. Maybe you can take turns. Tom. It's not like that. I'm not sleeping with him. I've never cheated on you like that, never. You're the only man I've been with since we got married. You have to believe me. Sorry. I don't believe you. Saturday afternoon you were with him alone for over an hour and a half. In his car. Alone. I couldn't follow you to see where you went, but I can imagine it was somewhere you could be alone. Did you do it with him in the back seat of his car in some parking lot? On the other end of the line, there was nothing but sobbing. I knew I was being cruel, but when you're hurt, you want to hurt the person who hurt you. I was in pain. That was my only excuse. Tom. Please. You have to come home and talk to me. You have to. You owe me that. If after that you still don't believe me, fine. But you have to give me a chance to explain what happened. Fine. I'll be there in an hour. You can make up whatever story you want about how bad you feel. Goodbye. I don't know why I agreed to go. What was I expecting, other than to hear more words that would hurt me? She'd already hurt me enough, even without realizing what she'd done. Why keep punishing myself? Maybe because, deep down, I hoped this was all a mistake, a misunderstanding, a nightmare I'd soon wake up from. Even though I knew it wasn't, my subconscious wouldn't let go. Even when love was gone, pride made me cling to the hope of finding something that was still worth saving. At around 11 o'clock, I pulled up to my house and just sat there, looking at it. It was a single-story ranch-style house that everyone used to call messy. In reality, the house was pretty big. 4 bedrooms, a living dining room, a small office, and a huge kitchen. The kitchen was spacious and well-equipped, with a breakfast nook overlooking the pool. I remembered how just yesterday morning I'd been woken by sunlight reflecting off the water. Was that really only yesterday? I sighed, got out of the car, and walked up to the front door. As I did, I automatically noticed the lawn needed mowing and the front bushes needed trimming. I rarely saw the house from the front, so it was something new. I made a mental note to call the lawn service. I walked up to the front door and rang the bell. It took a few seconds before she finally opened the door. When she saw it was me, she looked surprised. Tom. What are you doing at the front door? You never come in this way. Why didn't you use the garage door like always? I feel like I don't live here anymore. Everything's different now. Everything's changed, especially you. I feel different, that's all. Tom, please, come in and stop talking like that. Nothing's changed. Everything's the same. We just need to talk and clear things up. That's all. I stepped into the foyer and paused to look around. Everything looked the same, but I wasn't used to seeing it from this angle. I noticed a few things. The furniture she'd picked for the entryway. The formal dining table, set with napkins, silverware, and a big bouquet of flowers in the center. The narrow hallway leading to the living room with the sectional sofa, everything perfectly coordinated. And Donna, standing there in a short yellow dress that showed off her tanned figure, her shoulders, and the hint of cleavage between her breasts. I had to admit, she was still one of the most beautiful women I knew. I looked around in silence, then walked past her toward the kitchen. I wanted it to be on neutral ground, and the kitchen was the most neutral place we had. A few years ago, we'd hired a designer to remodel it, and everything there was his work. I didn't look back as I sat down at the table. Donna came in and went to the counter, where she had fresh coffee and a plate of butter cookies, my favorites. She set everything in the middle of the table and sat down across from me. She looked wonderful. Her hair was pulled back, and she'd taken the time to do her makeup and look her best. She'd succeeded. But that wasn't the point. I'd always loved her, seen her at her best and worst, and loved both sides. Nothing she did would change my mind, except this. This was too much. Tom. I want to tell you everything, but you have to let me say it. You can't just listen to part of it and then get angry. I have to explain it all. So please, promise me you'll listen. Not just to what you want to hear, but to everything. I looked at her and saw the fear in her eyes. It made me uncomfortable to think I'd caused it, but then I remembered, it wasn't me. It was her actions that brought her here. I would never hurt her physically, and she knew that. What she was afraid of was losing me, losing the marriage, losing our future together. That was the fear. I promise I'll listen to everything, every detail, no matter how ugly. And don't worry. I've never hit you and I never will. You know that. But I am going to get angry. I can't help that. All I can promise is I'll try to let you finish without losing control. Thank you. That's all I need, for you to listen to everything. And I've never felt in danger with you. Never. Even when you were so angry and hurt. I knew you'd never hurt me physically. She sat up straight in her chair, hands on the table in front of her. All this started about a month before Martha and Butch began their divorce process. She would tell me about her adventures and how he would disappear at any moment to cheat on her. She said she knew everything and was watching him. She said she had proof. I had to interrupt. I know I promised, and I'll keep my promise, but I wasn't going to let that garbage slide without saying something. So you're telling me this has been going on for how long? 7 or 8 months. You've been cheating on me all that time. And what proof? Did she ever show you any proof? And how did she find out all this? Who was her detective? That's all bullshit, and if that's what you're going to tell me, I might as well leave right now. Wait. Tom, wait. Nothing has been going on, like you say. And I told you I'd tell you everything. That's just what she told me. I know now it's not true, but at the time I had no reason to doubt her. I believed her. I sat back and let her continue. I was starting to feel like this conversation was going to be a complete waste, but I'd promised, and by God, I was going to keep my word. She started telling me about Jack Mason. She met him at one of the company events, and they became friends. According to her, he was the one who advised her to hire a private investigator. She said he knew Butch and would try to find out everything he could about him. And over the next 2 weeks, she told me he said he knew of at least 3 women Butch had affairs with. That when he was supposed to be driving, he was actually with one of those women. I shook my head and had to cut in. And you believed all that crap? I can't believe you were so naive. The woman I married wasn't that dumb or gullible. When the hell did you get so stupid? I know it sounds crazy now, but at the time it didn't. Around the same time, Martha started asking me if I knew where you were all the time. At first, I didn't think anything of it, but then I started noticing you were late for dinner, coming home really late, and other things. She kept watching me, and I started to get suspicious. So, I started thinking about it and believing maybe you were cheating on me. I watched you and tried to stay calm, but you never told me what you were doing, and I got more and more suspicious. In the end, I convinced myself you really were cheating on me. That's why you'd leave after dinner, that's why you'd come home late sometimes. You were with your lover. Enough. That's pure garbage, and I can't listen to this anymore. I know I promised, but I can't. You're trying to blame me, and that's a complete lie. I stood up, shoved the chair back, knocking it over, and stormed out of the kitchen. I let everything inside me out. I'll call you later, when I've calmed down enough to stand being around you. Tom. Wait. Please. I walked out the front door, down the 2 steps, and sat in my car. Once again, I drove away, just to get out of sight, pull over, and calm myself down. This was all a farce. I should have seen it coming. Deceit from start to finish. She just needed an excuse to be with another man and then blame me. Well, I wasn't going to tolerate it. An hour later, I was sitting in a small cafe, drinking a Coke and watching my miserable life evaporate like the bubbles in my glass. I called Butch to tell him where I was, and of course, he walked in with his usual confidence and sat down next to me. Hey, buddy. You can't think straight while you're drinking soda. Let's go home, have a couple of beers, maybe a shot. That's what you need to think clearly. Damn it, he was right. That's what we did, and it worked better. Here's what I think. You and I should go after those bastards and beat the hell out of them. You know Jack, he's a coward. And that other idiot, what's his name, is even worse. We can take care of them. Honestly, I didn't hate the idea. Maybe, if I thought about it a little more, it would help me make a decision. I thought about it, and it worked. Sounds like a pretty good idea to me. And that guy's name is Ron. A perfect name for a guy like that. When do we do it? Now. No. Today's Sunday, the Lord's Day. You can't do something like that on the Lord's Day. All right. We'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow sounds good. Tomorrow's not the Lord's Day, right? I don't think so. I think it's just Saturday and Sunday. Let's do it tomorrow anyway. We'll wait for them after work. That's all I could remember after coming to later that day. Butch and I spent most of the time drinking and making plans. But, strangely, I didn't feel hungover. In fact, I felt pretty good. Good enough that I decided to call Donna. I went back to the little room and dialed her number. Hello. Tom, is that you? Yes, it's me. How are you? How do you think? You ran out of here without giving me a chance to explain, like you promised. You said you wouldn't just listen to part of what I had to say. You didn't give me the chance to finish. You promised. She was crying again, sobbing, trying to get the words out. Damn, she was good at showing emotion. I know I promised. But it's hard for me to sit through this whole story you're trying to pin on me. Now you're trying to make me believe I was the one who cheated, and that's a damn lie. Am I supposed to just sit here calmly while you tell me all this? I'm just telling you what I thought at the time. I convinced myself it was true, and Martha pushed me to believe it. I get it now, but back then I didn't see it that way. That's what you wouldn't let me say. Well, that calmed me down a little, but I still couldn't understand how she could accept all this. Donna, we have a problem. You're telling me this whole story you believed, and that's what led you to act the way you did, and it's hard for me to accept that you were so naive. To me, it all sounds like a convenient excuse. It's not an excuse. It's the reason I did what I did. I'm not blaming you for anything, and I know you never cheated on me. I'm just trying to show you how confused I was. That's all. Well, if I accept that you were confused and thought I was cheating, why did you doubt me so quickly and believe someone else's word? Where was your trust in me? I think the truth is you thought you had a green light to do whatever you wanted, with whoever you wanted. That's what I think. So what now? Are we getting to the point? Silence. Just a few soft sobs, but no more crying. Maybe she knew it was almost over. Maybe she understood the battle was lost and it was time to accept defeat. All right. If you come home, I'll tell you the part about Ronald. That's the part you need to hear. Please, come back now, while I still have the courage to tell you. I'm on my way. I checked on Butch, but he was sleeping soundly. I wrote my location on a notepad and left it next to the rest of the beers in the 6-pack. He'd probably sleep until the next day, but I still wanted to be a considerate guest. I went back home, and this time I came in through the garage. I'd already made my position clear before. She was still sitting in the same place I'd left her, at the table. I walked over and sat down in my seat, pouring myself some coffee from the pot on the table. She took it, went to the microwave, and warmed it up for a minute. It was the same old coffee pot. One thing that always puzzled me was why the coffee was always cold. Donna got straight to the point. After the divorce, I spent a lot of time with Martha. She didn't really seem depressed, but I thought she was just hiding it. That's why I went to see her almost every day. She was fine, but she kept seeing Jack, which I thought was strange. I found out he was married and mentioned it to her, but she told me he was going to leave his wife. At least, that's what she said. Soon she started seeing him every day, so I stopped going to her house. But a week later she called and asked me to meet her at that cafe where you found me. I went, and that's where I met Ronald. He was with them. Jack introduced us. We just talked and got to know each other a little. I was with them for about an hour and then left, but I promised to see all three of them again. That's how it all started. I started to get nervous when she began talking about this guy. I didn't want to hear it, but I felt I had to. I looked at her and just nodded. I had lunch with them 2 more times, and then Ronald invited me out to dinner, just the 2 of us. At first I said no, but later he asked again and I finally agreed. We went out to dinner 3 or 4 times, always alone. I told you I was with Martha during those times. Donna paused to take a sip of tea while I waited. I took several deep breaths, trying to calm myself, but it didn't work. My heart was pounding, and I was afraid I might have a heart attack. But I stayed. When she looked at me, she saw the anger building in me, and she hurried to continue. I have to tell you right now that nothing happened during those dinners. Just 2 friends, talking and dancing a little. That was it. He was always a perfect gentleman. Then we didn't see each other for a week because he was on a business trip, but when he got back, he called and asked me to have lunch with him. I agreed, and we met at a cafe. During lunch, he asked me to spend the night with him. I refused, but he kept insisting. Still, I said no, but I told him maybe later. I didn't say no, I said maybe. She stopped and looked at me, while I kept breathing deeply and counting to 10 over and over. I was proud of myself for staying put and not falling apart from the blow. Fine, maybe it would happen later. But for now, everything was still okay. Oh my God, Tom. I'm so ashamed of myself. I said maybe. Maybe I would have betrayed you and our marriage. God, it's so shameful. But I have to go on. I have to tell you everything. She must have seen my face flush as my blood boiled. She shuddered at the look on my face, but even so, she continued. I had to give her credit for that. I told Martha what Ronald wanted, and she told me I should go for it. She kept insisting that after everything that had happened between us, I had the right to get back at you the same way. She kept saying you and Butch were just alike, and neither of you deserved loyalty. In the end, she confessed she'd been close to Jack almost every day. That didn't surprise me. I guess I already suspected. I kept thinking about what Ronald wanted, and it wore me down. I started imagining what it would be like. I haven't accepted his offer yet, but I'm leaning toward it. We went out to dinner a couple more times, and the last time he took me to a quiet corner of the restaurant and kissed me. Until then, I'd never kissed him on the lips, but that night he did. It was a gentle, pleasant kiss, and I didn't stop him, not because he forced me, but because I just let it happen. Afterward, I didn't say anything about it, so he'd think I didn't care. But that wasn't true. I felt dirty. Now it was her who was breathing heavily. It was interesting to watch how she was experiencing it. She was talking more to herself than to me now. It was a fascinating spectacle. That night at home, I replayed it over and over in my head. And after a while, it didn't seem so bad. In my mind, it started to feel pretty nice, and I even began to believe I liked it. I remember how he pressed up against me, and I felt his excitement. That's when I started to see Ronald not just as a friend, but as a potential lover. She paused for a second to gather her thoughts, shot me a quick glance, and continued. During the time I was going out to lunch and dinner with him, I started to see you as an obstacle to getting what I wanted. For example, going out with Ronald, having dinner, dancing, and so many other things. To me, you became a burden, and that made me angry with you. You didn't do anything, but I did. It was all in my head. In the end, I also decided I wouldn't make love to you anymore. You didn't deserve it, since you were so busy cheating on me with other women. Up to that point, I had listened to her story with a fair amount of patience and told myself that, since it was all over, what she had done wouldn't really matter anymore. But the situation was changing. Her behavior was disgusting and her attitude self-serving. Her whole story was just a display of selfish contempt for me and for our marriage. The anger I felt began to grow, and I knew that if something didn't happen soon, I was in danger of doing what I'd never done before, hitting a woman. I stood up and, after taking several deep breaths, looked at the woman I thought I had loved. I had no idea how she could have changed so much in such a short time. But maybe, in reality, she hadn't changed at all. Maybe this was the real Donna, a woman just waiting for the chance to go out and have her fun. I don't know how much more of this I can take. I don't know what the point of all this is, except maybe to make you feel better by confessing. But guess what? I'm not a priest. If that's what you're looking for, it's not me. So if there's nothing else, I need to leave before I lose my composure. She jumped up and reached out to me, but I stepped back so she couldn't touch me. Her face froze in a mask of pain and panic. And yet, she wasn't afraid of me. For some reason, that gave me a strange sense of satisfaction. She could feel pain, but not from my hand. I have to finish this. Until I do, there's no chance for us. You have to hear all of it. Please, you promised. Let me finish. I stood there, controlling my breathing, until I felt my blood pressure return to something close to normal. After a few deep exhalations, I felt myself relax a little and finally sat back down. Then let's finish this. I need to get some fresh air. This place stinks and it's making me sick. That surprised me. I saw how she shuddered with pain and shame, and it made me feel good. I had finally made her feel the pain I'd been living with for the last 3 days. But she sat back down and got ready to continue. Ronald kept calling me and asking to meet, but I kept turning him down. I was still thinking about it and, I think, trying to work up the courage to say yes. I talked to Martha several times, and she kept encouraging me to go for it, reminding me of your affairs as justification. I still had doubts, but little by little I was weakening. For some reason, you started to get suspicious, and I noticed your attitude toward me changed. Maybe you don't realize it, but after 9 years of marriage, I got to know you pretty well. I knew your moods, your face when you were thinking, and when something was bothering you. I saw more and more worry and focus in your expression. That made me think. She paused to take a sip of coffee and set it aside. The coffee had gone cold. Now I could drink something cold, like my coffee. A trivial, insignificant detail, but a small spark of pleasure made me smile. She must have taken my smile as a sign of doubt, because she moved away from that idea. You may not believe me, but it's true. Now that I think about it, I realize the same thing was happening to you. That's why you started to suspect me. You knew me and my habits. The changes were really significant. I was just too foolish to notice it in myself. That's what self-centeredness does to a person. I was so caught up in my own problems and everything else, I didn't even notice how much my behavior had changed. In any case, I decided I had to make sure you really didn't know anything, but I didn't know how to do it. I called Ronald and told him that for a while I had to be very careful, but that I'd call him when I could. He wasn't happy, but he agreed. That was last Monday. Now we were getting to the heart of the matter. I was about to hear the whole sad story. Now the truth was coming. I had lunch with him on Wednesday, when you said you had a meeting at work. I called his office and we met that same day at a downtown restaurant. We just had lunch, but we talked again about his proposal, and this time I agreed. I told him I would do it. I don't know why, but I thought it would be better to do it before I stopped seeing him, when your suspicions became too obvious. She looked at me, trying to read my reaction, but by then I'd stopped expecting anything. I was completely convinced of what she'd done, and this only confirmed it. Finally, the truth. I looked back at her without showing any emotion. On the outside, I was as cold and empty as I was inside. She almost started to cry when she saw my expression, but held back. She swallowed hard and continued. We agreed to meet for dinner on Saturday night. I was going to tell you I was going to the movies with Martha or somewhere else, so we'd have the whole night free. He booked a room at the Skyview Motel, near the cafe. Now I was completely stunned. Saturday? She was with that man Saturday night while I was out with Butch? After I'd caught her in a compromising situation the day before. No wonder she went to see him. She probably wanted to tell him everything was fine and that he didn't have to worry about me. I didn't know anything. Well, too bad. Now I do, and it's all over. All of this happened before we talked on Saturday morning. That conversation was a real shock for me, like you woke me up from a long sleep. I think I was just sleepwalking, listening to Martha, going out with Ronald, Jack, and her, and those lunches when you were at work. The lies I told myself, the assumptions about your affairs, all of it. It was all false, and I believed it. But when you made me face the truth on Saturday, I realized it was over. I had to stop it. All of it. She shook her head from side to side, as if denying everything she'd done. She believed what she was saying, and it was hard for me to listen. But we were almost at the end. I called Ronald and asked him to meet me at the cafe. We walked around while I told him it was over. That I'd changed my mind and didn't want to see him anymore. What we were doing was wrong, and I couldn't go on. He didn't want to stop, but in the end I convinced him I was serious. He still wanted to see me, but I told him never again. It was over. He finally accepted it and drove me back to my car. That's when you saw me. So that was it. After everything that had happened, she didn't even go through with it. That surprised me, but I believed her. Donna could do a lot of things, but she was never good at lying. Even a little white lie was hard for her. But now it was my turn to speak. Well, Donna, that's an interesting story. So after all the garbage Martha told you, after all the lies you heard and believed, after all the secret lunches and dinners where you lied to me about what you were doing and who you were with, you finally decided to take your affair all the way and betray our marriage. But you didn't. Why? What do you mean, why? Because it was wrong. I realized it and I stopped. But if you knew it was wrong, why did you agree in the first place? Why all those lunches, dinners, and lies about where you were going? Why did you plan to go further? Why did you let him book a room at a motel? And why did you go so far as to tell me you'd be with Martha? Up until that morning, you intended to go through with it. What stopped you? You talked to me and told me it was all Martha's lies. That it was all in her head, and she told me just to convince me to do the same thing she did. That's why. I realized it was a lie and that what I was doing was wrong. So, you would have done it if I hadn't forced you to see that it was all a lie and face what you were really about to do? Yes. I mean, no. I don't know. But I didn't do it, and that's what matters. No, that's not what matters. What matters is that you were willing to believe the worst about me and go out with another man without telling me. What matters is that you were about to betray our marriage just because someone told you I was cheating. What matters is that you never thought to come talk to me. In your mind, you'd already crossed that line. All those dates, lunches, and intimate dinners. You lived with me, but you were thinking about him. You stopped making love to me, but you planned to do it with him. You accepted his proposal and planned to cheat. Only my intervention stopped you. Nothing was going the way Donna had planned. This wasn't the understanding husband she'd expected. The only thing she saw as relevant was that she hadn't actually gone through with it. It never occurred to her to think about what she had already accepted. The lunches and dinners she hid from her husband didn't bother her. The lies she heard about me and chose to believe didn't matter either. For her, the only thing that counted was that nothing physical had happened. In her mind, betrayal only existed if there was physical contact. She didn't consider the breaking of intimacy and trust as betrayal. That wasn't important to her. Tom, please. I didn't do it. I never cheated on you. I didn't. You have to understand. Nothing happened. I didn't do it. Yes, you did. You went out with another man, had lunch and dinner with him over and over. You lied to me and hid it, which proves you knew it was wrong. You turned my life at home into hell because you chose to believe someone else over me. He kissed you, and you said you didn't like it, but you didn't stop him. You planned to sleep with him and only stopped because I got in the way. That's what you did. No. No. That's not fair. I wasn't with him, and I didn't like the kiss. I told you I convinced myself of that. But it wasn't true. No, you convinced yourself you didn't because you wanted to justify your betrayal. In your mind, you'd already gone through with it. Donna was devastated. Nothing had turned out the way she expected. Everything she said, from my perspective, had a different meaning. I saw what she didn't want me to see, and she didn't know how to face it. She looked at me, her eyes clouded with tears. What are you going to do? Can't you forgive me and start over? Try to fix it. It's not too late. I didn't do anything, so we can work it out. We can. It's too late. It was too late when you decided not to trust me. It was over when you went out to dinner with him for the first time and lied to me. That's when it ended. You just didn't know it. Neither did I, until you told me. Now I know. It's time for you to face the truth. Our marriage is over. It's dead, and there's nothing left of it. Donna cried, argued, begged, but at no point did she say she loved me or that she needed me. She just kept repeating that she hadn't gone through with it. For her, that was all that mattered. I think she knew it was over between us and was just trying to convince herself it wasn't too late. The love was gone, hers and mine. She had hurt me as deeply as if she had actually gone through with that night at the Skyview Motel. Our marriage, clearly, had died some time before. She just didn't know it yet. That day, I left for good. There was nothing left to save. In my heart, there was no love left for Donna. She had betrayed me as clearly as if she had been with him. Love, respect, and fidelity, the three pillars of any marriage. If one breaks, the bond is in danger, but it can still be saved. If two are lost, the marriage collapses. The third can't hold it up alone. In our case, Donna broke two and planned to destroy the third. There was no way back. The next day, I filed for divorce. Donna didn't contest it. Epilogue. Several months had passed since the divorce. The house, once filled with voices, was now steeped in a thick, heavy silence, like the kind of forgetting that settles into the corners. Donna was left alone. Unlike her friend, whose advice she had accepted as absolute truth, she didn't even have a lover left to support her. Martha had long since moved on. She moved in with another man, leaving Donna with only scraps of phrases and excuses that now sounded like mockery. And Ronald disappeared right after she turned him down. He never came back, never called, never wrote. He had his own life, and there was no place in it for a woman who didn't dare. Donna tried to keep up her routine, work, shopping, brief conversations with neighbors. But everything felt foreign, fake, like a stage set abandoned after a play. She could no longer look at herself in the mirror without remembering how, with her own hands, she had destroyed what was once her refuge. She lost her husband, respect, trust, and worst of all, herself. One cold autumn afternoon, she returned home and discovered the electricity had been cut off. The bill hadn't been paid. She sat in the kitchen, in the dark, with a cup of cold tea, and for the first time in a long while, allowed herself to cry. Not out of anger, not out of fear, but for the emptiness, for the hopelessness, for the certainty that everything was lost. On the table lay an old photograph, forgotten after Thomas moved out. They were at the beach, laughing, with sand in their hair and sunlight in their eyes. She ran her finger over her own face, as if she could bring back what was gone, and whispered. I didn't know how to love. I was only just learning. Forgive me. And then, nothing more. After that, Donna stopped appearing at parties, and stopped answering calls. The neighbors said she had left. Some said her parents had come for her. Others said she simply disappeared. But in the house on the corner, where Donna once lived, the lights never came on again. And those were the consequences. The end. Thank you for your time.